Good morning, and good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. Today I'm going to review the Kodak ZX3 Playsport video camera. There's the back, and then there is the front. The Playsport ZX3 is the older model, and it's being replaced by the ZX5, which is the newer model. When I bought my camera about a few weeks ago, I decided, after all my research, on buying the ZX3 over the ZX5 because the thing I didn't like about the ZX5, the specs were the same. The lithium-ion battery is built in. You can't remove it. Similar to the flip video cam, you cannot remove the battery. So I thought, that's no good because I want to have a spare battery and swap them when one runs out. Have one charging and one in the camera so that I can continually use the camera. Have no downtime, in other words. So after the research that I did, I discovered that the ZX3 has a removable battery. So you can buy extra batteries, which I think is a really good feature. The ZX3, similar to the ZX5, except the battery. That's about all. It takes an SD card up to 32 gig, which is really good. The features on this are pretty simple. It's got the menu is accessed through the buttons on the front, and it's well made. It seems quite solid. It's waterproof up to 3 meters. It records in VGA mode, WVGA. It also records in 720p at 30 frames per second, and 720p 60 frames per second, and 1080p at 30 frames per second. The image quality in 720p is a bit crisper and clearer. The quality is better at 720p 30 frames per second rather than 720p 60 frames per second. So if you're doing a YouTube video and it's on a tripod or on your monitor, I would probably go with the 30 frames per second 720p. But if you're outside, outdoors, and walking around and doing a lot of panning, I would go with the 720p 60 frames per second because you're going to get less blurriness and less camera jitter and less camera shake. I wouldn't record at 1080p outside if I'm holding the camera and doing a lot of panning, because the 1080p again is only recorded at 30 frames per second. So generally for outdoor use, I prefer the 720p 60 frames per second. Another cool feature that I discovered when I went into the settings button was the following. I will do a record. Okay, I'm recording this now, and you can see that the lens is here and there's a red flashing light, and that means that the subject that you're recording is recorded. Also on my side, I can see a red flashing light, which shows me that the subject is being recorded. Some people, when they're being recorded, find that red flashing record light distracting. So the manual doesn't explain how to turn off that red flashing record light, but if you go into the settings button, which I'm going to do now, there is a picture or an icon of a speaker, and you just turn that off, and basically it just turns off the little beeps when you push all the buttons, and also it turns off the red flashing light when you're recording, even though you're still recording. So I'm going to record now, and it is recording, and you can see that there's no red flashing light. So we'll stop that, turn that off, And it's funny because the manual doesn't really tell you about how to turn off the annoying red record light. So you can turn it on or you can turn it off. The sound is pretty good for a pocket camera. You can get a lot of accessories. You can get a wide angle and a fisheye lens that basically excuse me, that basically just snap on here. It's like a magnetic ring and you just snap it on. You can get that online or through the Kodak website. You can get extra battery chargers, extra batteries. There's a lot of accessories that you can buy. Personally, if I were recommending this over the ZX5, I would recommend this one, the ZX3, because of the removable battery. I don't like having a battery that you cannot remove, because when the battery dies or when the battery gets old, you have to throw away the camera. Whereas if you have a removable battery, you can just buy a new battery. That's a really big plus. And other than that, it's got face detection, it's got EIS, electronic image stabilization, that makes the video smoother. It's waterproof, like I said, up to 3 meters. And my recommendation for handheld use outdoors, doing a lot of panning, I would go with the 720p 60 frames per second, because the 1080p doesn't record at 60 frames per second. It only does it at 30 frames per second. Indoors on a tripod for YouTube use, you can get a little bit clearer image if you shoot at 720p 30 frames per second instead of the 60 frames per second. I tried the VGA mode, which is 800 by 480, and it's actually it's not too bad. If you shoot in VGA mode, you get about 3 hours 20 minutes recording time on an 8 gig SD card. And if you shoot at 720p 30 frames per second, you get a little over 2 hours, 2 hours and 10 minutes recording time. Now, if you shoot at either 720p 60 frames per second or 1080p 30 frames per second, you only get about an hour and a half recording time. Did I say that right? An hour and a half recording time for 720p 60 frames per second, and an hour and a half recording time for 1080p 30 frames per second. I like having the option of buying SD cards all the way up to 32 gig. It's solidly built, it's waterproof, it's fun. It comes with HDMI cables, USB cables. There's nothing extra that you have to buy. Everything is included in the box. Go online and check out some test videos to see the quality of the videos. It's pretty good. Of all the, through my research, of all the pocket video cameras, I found the Kodak Playsport the best quality. The sensor on it is pretty good. I found it better than the Flip, and I like the color better than the Flip, and the clarity of the video better than the Flip also. And it's got more options. It's got more, with the Flip you just push one button and it does everything, but I like having a few options on the menu system where you can change things. And the options are very simple to learn and to use, so you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure it out. It's not brain surgery. Just by reading the manual and playing with it, you could figure it out on your own, and you could even teach your mom how to do it. She probably would like it. So anyway, I've enjoyed this. I've had it for a few weeks, and it's a nice little camera. And it's great that it's waterproof, so if you're outdoors and it's raining and it gets wet, it doesn't matter. And it's a fun camera, so check it out online, and definitely go with the ZX3 over the ZX5, because the specs are almost identical, but with the ZX3 you've got that removable battery. So Anyway, if you get it, let me know how you like it, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. So I hope you enjoyed my review, and good night, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are out there in cyberspace. Have a great weekend, a great day, a great night, whatever, and see you again soon. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.